Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order this Pierce County Council meeting in a Tuesday study session. It is Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. The time is 12:03 p.m. All members are present except for Councilmember Morrell, who is excused. We're at item number 2, review of today's council meeting agenda. Mr. Cox, to brief.
Yes, Chair Mello, members of the council, Jeff Cox, council staff. I'm here substituting today for Susan Long, who you can see, though, is available online should you have any questions for her. First up, you have your amended meeting agenda. And there's 2 items that have been added since Monday's study session. But let me go through this really quickly and I'll touch on those. Under item 5, your consent agenda, you recall you have the resolution confirming the reappointment of 2 existing board members to the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, and that's for final action. That's again under the consent agenda. You have one of your 2 new items is that the executive has transmitted an update to his messages indicating that he approved and signed ordinance 2024-525, amending Chapter 1420 of the Pierce County Code, Parks and Recreation Streets. You have under item 7, as you discussed on Monday, your proclamation, and you'll be doing a recognition of the council and the executive honoring Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Dan Hamilton for 38 years of service to Pierce County. Under item 8, resolutions, you have 2 resolutions. Both of them were discussed at Monday's study session. The first are 2024-172S, approves homeless housing program 2024-2025 funding recommendations to the Pierce County Human Services Department and Homeless Document Recurring Fee Advisory Group. This passed as substitute at Health and Human Services Committee. Number 2, you have proposal R 2024-173, which is approving the Puget Sound Taxpayer Accountability Account 2024-2025 funding. And that received a due pass recommendation at Health and Human Services on June 18th. Under item 9, ordinances, you have 2 ordinances. The first is proposal ordinance 2024-524S. This is adopting a new chapter of 9.57, the Pierce County Code, endangerment with a controlled substance. This was passed out of committee yesterday. You discussed it yesterday, and it received a due pass as substitute recommendation. It was amended. There is an additional amendment in your packet, and I believe Andrea Kelly is here to discuss that with you. So for final action. And finally, under legislation, you have ordinance 2024-526, ratifying the collective bargaining agreement reached with Pierce County Deputy Sheriff's Independent Guild, local number 1189, community service officers. That also received a due pass recommendation at Rules and Operations on June 10th. The next item on your agenda is under item 11, other business, and you have a motion to authorize the Finance Department to pay an additional $10,184 for dues to the Washington State Association of Counties. That has also been discussed. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Susan would as well.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. For the record, Councilmember Morrell has joined us. Before we get to the amendment for the endangerment with controlled substances ordinance, I wanted to just briefly note on resolution 2024-172S. This is the recommendations on the homeless document recording fee expenditures. My request is that we postpone for another week. There's a number of questions that I know several members have, and several deputy prosecuting attorneys have not been available yesterday and this morning due to lots of other kinds of activity. I think they're distracted with a number of things. So there's a number of questions that are outstanding related to our procurement procedures here. And so my request is that we give council another week to get its questions answered and bring it forward next week. Under ordinance 2024-524S, there is one amendment. Ms. Kelly, can we ask you to brief on the amendment that will be offered this afternoon?
Certainly. Thank you, Council Chair. Andrea Kelly, Council staff. After discussion yesterday in the Public Safety Committee, we do have an additional amendment, amending the recital to clarify council's intent. So changing the language, adding, whereas the county council encourages the state legislature to consider amending RCW 9A 42-100, reckless endangerment with a controlled substance, to include all controlled substances as a Class B felony. In the interim, the county council finds it necessary and appropriate to take actions in its capacity to establish county code to protect public health and safety, and desires to take immediate steps to deter the endangerment of children and other vulnerable populations caused by the dangers of exposure to controlled substance.
Councilor Denson, do you want to speak to this at all?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Kelly did a great job. This really did come out of the conversation that we had yesterday and concerns that we wanted to make sure that the state legislature still knew that there was work to be done as far as we were concerned, and we still want them to take this up and consider adding all controlled substances as a Class B felony. So this is reflective of that and hopefully can strengthen our ask in that way. It also was a result of some thought following Prosecutor Robnett's comments about how they're having difficulty persuading, I suppose, folks to take advantage of our therapeutic courts under the current law here in the county, and that if folks were facing a felony, they may be a little bit more open to the idea of participating in our therapeutic courts and all of the recovery programs that come along with that, all the support services, which would be the ultimate goal, is to help people get well for both themselves and their families. And we know that that has just ripple effects throughout the community and generational impacts as well. I'll just end by saying that this is, a tough and nuanced issue for sure, but we are talking about our most vulnerable residents, our children, and we are also talking about egregious endangerment, that reckless endangerment. So there is a high bar for the implementation of this statute. So thank you. I guess I'll also add that I did confer with Councilmember Herrera, and he was supportive of this since this is his legislation.
Thank you, Councilor Denson. Vice Chair Campbell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the work on this amendment. Do we know, are we the only county asking this, or will this be in conjunction? Is this something that other counties have that they're working through in their processes that will be joining with them in supporting a bill that's kind of already working its way through, or is it something that'll have to be like newly created and brought into the legislature?
So I can speak to that. It was the 2022 legislative session. It passed unanimously through the Senate and did not get a hearing and was returned to Senate Rules Committee, and then did not get called again in this most recent legislation. And that was Senate Bill 5010, which expanded this RCW to include, currently the RCW is reflective of methamphetamines and ingredients to create methamphetamine, is the classification for a Class B felony. And so it has already been introduced in legislation. The intent in regard to the question about other counties, I don't know if other counties have moved forward. I don't know of any other counties that have moved forward at a local level. However, we heard from Prosecutor Robnett yesterday that WAPA was one of the big supporters of this at the state level, which is Washington Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, which has representation from more than just Pierce County.
So there's already something in motion, may need to get amended or whatever, but we're not trying to drop a whole new concept down there. Okay.
Absolutely
Good.
not.
Good. And because we can only do up to a gross misdemeanor here, so that's why we have the maximum that we can do here. The hope is that someone threatened with a felony or convicted of a felony would be far more likely to modify their behavior, because no one wants to be known as a convicted felon because of what it should hold in their status then in the community. So the hope is that by threatening with a felony, that they would then want to engage in our court systems.
Correct. Prosecutor Robnett also presented yesterday that the felony level therapeutic courts populations are increasing again following COVID. It's the misdemeanor alternative courts that have not seen the return to pre-COVID numbers. So speaking to
Okay,
what
no,
what
thank
you're
you.
saying
That explains, I didn't get a chance
Mhm.
to see the briefing yesterday, so that kind of brings it into all of us. And would support definitely going down to Olympia and, trying to bring felony level awareness to this, because, thank you, Chair.
Thanks for asking those questions that we're all tracking. And in this regard, we're talking about endangerment of a minor with a controlled substances, not possession. Everyone, adults possession. We're talking about endangerment of a minor with a controlled substance
correct, and endangerment of a dependent or a dependent adult.
or a dependent adult.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
The other important thing for policymakers to keep top of mind in conjunction with Vice Chair Campbell's questioning, another important nuance for us in local government is felonies and all felony cases are paid for by the state. Misdemeanors are paid for by local government. So we bear the cost of misdemeanors. The state bears the costs largely of felonies. So there's also that from a cost argument, but appreciate Councilmember Denson's what I heard, Councilmember Denson, a lot of the conversation about how do we get the right incentives to people to get well and give proper incentives for them to seek treatment and get well for the long term. That's what I heard from Councilmember Denson. I just can't always avoid the cost argument. Councilmember Krueger.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councilmember Herrera, for taking the lead on this. We buckle our children up in these tight spots in a car seat to protect them, and then the pictures that you showed told a big story. And I'm interested in understanding when the council encourages the state, does that come like in the form of a letter to them, or does it go into what the council priorities on how that would transfer from, county ordinance to the state?
It would be up to the council to either add this to legislative priorities for next session. I believe it is going to be, the intent is that it's going to be coming up again in the next legislative session.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Campbell.
One more follow-up question, since we have you here, don't need to ask it later. If this got adopted as a felony down at the state level, our misdemeanor would still remain in effect, or would it then supplant our misdemeanor?
It would supplant the misdemeanor. There is a preemption clause in the exhibit that if that is enacted at the state level, that this would.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kelly, for briefing on the amendment. Is there any other questions about anything at all about our 3 p.m. agenda today? Not seeing any. For item number 3, external boards and commissions. Mr. Taylor, to begin the discussion as always.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Hugh Taylor, council staff. Just 2 items to touch on. First is Pierce County Regional Council. So last Thursday, the PCRC did have the special meeting that was briefed out at last week's study session. The result of that meeting is that the PCRC considered the Transportation Coordinating Committee's recommendations for funding for the PSRC countywide funding cycle. They did approve those recommendations as submitted by the TCC. And so those recommendations will be transmitted to the PSRC, the Puget Sound Regional Council, for consideration. In regard to the Puget Sound Regional Council, there is an executive board meeting this week, June 27th at the regular 10 a.m. time. There aren't action items other than what's on the consent agenda. There are a number of discussion items that they have lined up that I know are of interest to the council. The first is discussion regarding the development of the regional safety action plan. So this is related to the county's Vision Zero effort. As a reminder, the Pierce County received funding from PSRC through a grant to support the development of the Vision Zero action plan here locally. This is the regional equivalent of that plan. So that'll be discussed. The initial task in the plan development process will be discussed by the executive board. There'll also be a discussion of the PSRC equity tracker. As I understand it, the PSRC is using an iterative process in the design of that tracker. They have their first generation of equity tracker that's available on the PSRC website. I will find that link and send it to members. You're probably interested in taking a look at what that tracker looks like at PSRC. The last item that they're going to discuss is the comprehensive plan review, work plan and approach. So, 82 jurisdictions in the region, all going through their comprehensive plan updates to comply with the Growth Management Act, specifically the periodic update process that you've all been briefed extensively on, and Community Development and Environment Committee. PSRC certifies all those local comprehensive plans. They all get submitted to PSRC. So they have to have certification at the regional level. They have a process for doing that. It'll be a significant effort on part of PSRC in the next 12 to 24 months. So this whole discussion is about their process and opportunity to answer questions of executive board members regarding that process. So that's what I have on PSRC. And that's all that I have today.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Are there questions for Mr. Taylor before we seek other updates? Councilmember Hitchin?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Taylor, when we first started talking about the comprehensive plan and the housing targets by AMI, I think was the conversation. We asked months ago, like, was PSRC thinking about recommendations or something collaboratively to think about how we actually do that? Do you know if there's been any additional thinking on that or support for cities and towns coming from this regional body to think about how they could do that work?
So are you speaking to actually how you implement and achieve the targets?
Yes.
I do know that there are a number of discussions at PSRC related to achieving housing targets. One of the items I think that was recently in the Growth Management Policy Board or coming up is a discussion about how you can integrate housing into commercial projects. I'll get some more information on this for you. I do know that there's multiple lines of discussion related to that. How that translates into local plans and support for implementing local plans, I'm not certain.
Okay.
But I'll get some follow-up information for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Taylor? Thank you. Do other members have other external boards and commissions to update on? Councilmember Morel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had the privilege to represent Pierce County at the 10th International Yoga Day for Pierce County. And I got given this by the Consulate General for my downward dog position in my warrior
Let's see it.
position. So I did pretty good.
We have a table in front of us.
Right.
I mean, we should. So it was an honor. The Consulate General of India was there because that's where yoga started. And it was a great event. Catherine Rudolph put it together with PLU, and the president of PLU was there. And it was a great program, well attended. There was probably 50 yoga mats out there. And a lot of the students took the opportunity to actually do yoga. And the Blue Zones was there. And they were giving out cucumber water, which was good. But it was a good event that happened. Also, the Trek at Tahali was dedicated. It's the new world-class mountain bike course up in the Tahali community. Tahali basically deeded over almost 200 acres to the Parks Department for maintaining a mountain bike course that they will get impact fee tax credits for. But 6 years in the making for this course, and it is the buzz among my mountain bike riders. So well attended from everyone from 6 years old to 75 years old. And So that's going to be a great draw to the area economically, and it'll put Pierce County on the map for a mountain bike course that actually has a very steep descend. It's about 2,000 feet down to the Carbon River. So the enthusiasts, the biking, and really enjoyed that day, and I think there was about 60 bikers there that took part. So it was a great day. And thank you to the Parks Department for putting that together.
Thank you for representing us, Councilor Morrell. We do look forward to seeing how you've mastered those poses.
There's a space right here. You can.
Any other external boards and commission updates? I don't see any. Thank you for all of those. I want to come back to today's meeting agenda. Apologies. I noted that with the homeless document recording fee, I believe council still has several outstanding questions that I do not anticipate us getting answered or resolution to before the 3 p.m. meeting today, despite our best efforts. I do want to suggest to council that we still introduce it, we brief it, and we have a public hearing on it. I believe there very well may be interested parties to provide feedback. And so my request of council is that we conduct the public hearing, and assuming we do not have council's questions answered appropriately, that we after the public hearing, we have a motion to continue. So I just wanted to state that so folks could be prepared for the 3 p.m. meeting. We're at item number 4, Chair's Topics. I'd like to ask Mr. Kruger to discuss briefly with council. There's been some discussion about the periodic update and amendments outside of the once a decade big comprehensive plan update, some announcement that was made by the department. And I want to make sure everyone is on the same page, because I believe many of our offices are fielding questions in this regard related to the regular periodic updates. Mr. Taylor, or Mr. Kruger.
Good afternoon, council. As council knows, typically in the even numbered years, in the month of July, applications for comprehensive plan amendments are accepted by Planning and Public Works. Council receives those applications following July, and per code in September, you initiate comprehensive plan amendments that are completed in the subsequent odd numbered year. That timeline does not work for the periodic update. Planning and Public Works asked for a legal opinion from the prosecutor's office related to the language in Pierce County Code requiring the biennial amendment process and how that would work in incorporating any council-initiated amendments in the periodic update pursuant to GMA, RCW, that requires council take action only once per year. The prosecutor has determined that we cannot do that. We cannot accept applications in July, initiate in September, and then skip into 2025 with those applications and still meet our obligations for the periodic update. And so as a result of that legal analysis, Planning and Public Works has provided notification on their website that they will not be accepting biennial amendments. So what that means to you all and to myself and to your staff is that if you're contacted by constituents that are interested in a comprehensive plan amendment, please take notes, let your staff know, and then we will do what we can to incorporate any changes through individual amendments when we receive the proposal this fall. For practical purposes, if suggestions fall within the scope of the preferred alternative, we shouldn't have any problem entertaining individual amendments. If proposals, however, are outside the scope of the EIS and the preferred alternative, then the next opportunity for a proposed amendment would be in July of 2026, basically 2 years from now. So just wanted to share that information. I know that some of the members have been hearing from constituents that are interested in amendments. Again, please take notes in terms of what they're looking for and ask your staff to help you with individual amendments that, that we can put together for consideration this fall. And I'd be happy to take any questions about that.
Questions for Mr. Kruger? Thank you for helping us understand the determination by the department and the path forward on that. I don't have any other chair's topics. So we're at item number 5, other business. Let's begin with our communications manager and public information officer updates. Mr. Dominique, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the council, Brian Dominique, council staff. Few updates for you this afternoon. During the 2024-2025 budget, the council appropriated $2.5 million for a stability site. That has been trending in the news. I'm sure if you've seen my news highlights, that's been covered a couple times, especially as the county is looking for a site and things like that. We haven't been lead on that story. Most of those questions have been fielded by county departments, but wanted to bring it to your attention that is being covered. Our last county legislator, which is our internal newsletter that goes out every other week, had 16,000 readers. A little more than 16,000 readers, its last issue. So still performing well. We have another issue going out this Friday. So that's been a very successful communications tool that we've adopted in the communications division. And then to touch on proclamations. So there is a proclamation in your Tuesday study session packet for Pride Month. The council will pending council rules and operations approval. We'll bring that forward July 9th. We don't have any proclamations in the month of July after July 9th. So there is some room to do some other things in there. We were specifically thinking of the Olympics. The Olympics will be starting at the end of July, and we may have some athletes that are going to the Olympics. So if you guys know of anyone in your district that we could potentially recognize here in council chambers before they head off, be a good opportunity to do so. And we do have the space on the calendar. And pending any questions, that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Dominique? Thank you. Does any member have any other business before we enter into an executive session? I don't see any. Mr. Cox, any other business before we move into an executive session?
No, sir.
Okay. Can you please state the purpose of the executive session?
Sure. The purpose of this session is to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency acting in an official capacity is likely to become a party. And you'll need to announce the time of return.
Ms. Long, can you, we're going to do this virtually because I believe our legal counsel for this purpose will be joining us via virtually, whatever platform it is that's on our calendars. And can you remind me how much time is requested by the prosecutor's office?
I would actually have to ask I don't think Ms. Luna is here. Let's go with 20 minutes. And if we need to extend, then we can do that.
Sounds good. So again, members, we're doing this virtually to accommodate our legal counsel's schedule. We will be in recess for the purposes of an executive session until 12:55, and we'll move into that executive session as soon as possible. We'll be in recess at 12:55. The time is 12:55, and the council has returned from its executive session, and seeing no further business before the Pierce County Council in Tuesday's study session, we are adjourned.